Today we join with congregations and Christian worship throughout the world as we focus upon this gospel reading from the Revised Common Lectionary. From the 17th chapter of Luke, we have this interesting encounter as Jesus meets 10 lepers upon the road. On the way to Jerusalem, Jesus was going through the region between Samaria and northern Galilee. As he entered a village, 10 diseased men approached him. Keeping their distance, they called out, saying, "Jesus, Master, have mercy on us." When he saw them, he said to them, "Go and show yourselves to the priests." And as they went, they were made whole and healthy. Then one of them, when he saw that he was healed, turned back, praising God with a loud voice. He prostrated himself at Jesus' feet and thanked him. And he was a Samaritan. Then Jesus asked, "Were there not 10 made clean? But the other 9, where are they? Was none of them found to return and give praise to God except this foreign Samaritan?" Then he said to the man, "Get up and go your way, for your faith has made you well." That's an intriguing encounter that's not just about the miracles of Jesus, the powers of Jesus, the compassion of Jesus. For we have to read much more between the lines. You see, in those days, no one who was uncleaned or damaged or deficient in any way could enter the temple in Jerusalem. You see, the blind were forbidden. Anyone that was thought to be imperfect in any way could not enter the sacred compound of the temple. So what is the command that Jesus gives to these men suffering from leprosy that he encounters on the road? Go and show yourselves to the priest. Well, they must have been astounded that this healer, this man of miracles, as he was becoming to be known, would tell them, "Return to your tradition. Go to the temple where you have previously been outcast. Show up." Well, as the story unfolds, it is in their willingness to take his instruction and to begin to return to their sacred tradition, their sacred community, that on the way they are healed and made whole, even before they get to the priests. So Jesus gave them a direction. He didn't do the healing, at least it doesn't seem, nor did the priests in the temple. They hadn't gotten there yet. They didn't seem to do the healing. One of them returns, praising God on his way. So not when he got to Jesus, but on the way, he's giving thanks. I'm healed, I'm well. But he goes to the man who gave him direction, Jesus, to give thanks and to praise what God has done. Jesus says, "Well, where are the other 9? Where's the only one?" He's making this acknowledgement of the greatness of God out of thanksgiving and joy. And the twist in the story is once again this man who seems to get the picture, get the idea, is a Samaritan. Remember, that was a people who were not part of the Hebrew nation or the Jewish tradition. They were outsiders. just like the Good Samaritan on the road that helped the man who was beaten by robbers. Jesus used that as an example. That sometimes it's people on the margins of society or life that have wonderful lessons for those of us that are within a tradition who might think we know it all. Someone from the outside holds up a mirror or a truth to us that we still have more to learn. Let us give thanks for the power of these words of the sacred Scripture. Well, it has been a busy time this weekend. We had a very interesting program on the history and hauntings of Missouri on Friday night by Mary Collins Burrell and brought to us by the Humanities Council and the State Historical Society of Missouri. Our first time to work with the government, so to speak, in doing a joint work together. So that was exciting, at least for me in planning it. But apparently it was for Mary, because she wrote to me this morning and wanted to extend her thanks to her and how warm and welcome she felt Friday night when she came in. And I thought it was nice to proclaim us as the nicest audience in the world. So she will speak well of us as she connects with the state office. Also, we've already mentioned those that worked with the Harbor Hop this weekend. Once again, they were ambassadors of Unity at the Lake, going out into that activity. People knew often that we were from Unity at the Lake, working as a group of volunteers. And so we were taking a joy and a helpfulness and a willingness to participate into this function of the convention visitor, the convention bureau. And it's sort of like an ambassador of goodwill would go from the United States to another nation. We're starting here right at the lake and carrying the joy of our Unity family into the world. And there's much more. Lee spoke of the coming Thanksgiving baskets. I hope you choose to participate in that. I plan to help others with a meal before I plan my Thanksgiving feast for myself. And we can also be aware of our Women of Unity and all of their fall projects. You know, they just finished helping us collect lots and lots of socks for the Citizens Against Domestic Violence community, and also hats and gloves and many activities for school children in the area. And once again, although we may not emblazon Unity at the Lake upon every object that we take out into the community, we can know that it is invisibly permeating those items, because those items are filled with our willingness to do something for our greater community. And of course, in coming months, we will be collecting those wonderful little stuffed ambassadors of goodwill here in the sanctuary. And at the appropriate time in December, they will all go out again with our blessing into the world, so that the various law enforcement agencies have these little stuffed animals to give to children that are in difficult situations sometimes, and give them an object to caress and hold and take their attention off of perhaps a difficult situation in their family or circumstances. So we have all this wonderful activity that's going on from our community into the world. You might meditate on it in your prayer time, imagining it like a candle flame or even a brighter fire that's casting the radiance like the love of this congregation and making our world truly a brighter place. That can be just a cliche, or you can make it real in your prayer life. seeing how our deeds really are radiating out and warming our world. Because what could we be doing? We could be using strong language, hard attitudes, unkind remarks, or not here, but human beings are capable of acts of violence. That could be what we are sending out into our community, but we choose consciously to send out good. Warmth, radiance, goodwill. That's our choice as a community. Now I want to turn our attention, or really relate it to those ideas, to our lesson today. Some of you may remember, "Blessed be the tie that binds our hearts in Christian love, the fellowship of kindred minds is like to that above." These wonderful old songs, whether traditional or unity songs as we've shared this morning, often carry a powerful image. That one speaks to our shared experience as a community. How we're bound together in Christian love. Some unity churches like to change that to Christ-like love. I'll let you work with it in your own way. But the point is that it brings us together in a community. And that community of goodwill and desire to be a beneficial presence in the world, the song then goes on to tell us that it's like God's love from above. It's like what we say in our Lord's Prayer every week. That we are willing to consciously be an expression on earth of the truths, the spiritual principles of heaven. That is our purpose. That is the most essential purpose, as Charles Fillmore, co-founder of Unity, expressed it. People in his day that were, let's say, more educated than I am in philosophy and the history of philosophy would call Mr. Fillmore a reviver of Plato, a Neo-Platonist. What that meant was Plato believed and taught his students, such as Aristotle, and Plato was inspired by Socrates, to speak of spiritual principle, or what we call in Unity divine ideas, that our whole purpose as a human being is to grasp these ideas of truth and beauty and goodness, and through our actions give them expression in this world. What we call in Unity being a co-creator with God. God establishes principle, and then we work with those principles as we best understand them to give them expression in our world. Our theme this month, are a series of lessons on what Unity teaches. Not that I'm going to give you an instruction manual, but Unity through its 125-year history and through the interpretation of me, your minister. There are, of course, many other ministers and teachers of Unity, so I will own what I am sharing, but this is my understanding of my 40 years in Unity as a student and later employee and later minister. What Unity teaches. We began last week with what Unity teaches about health and prosperity. CDs are available. Or you can go on our website anytime, anywhere in the world and look at the lesson titles and choose what you want to listen and click on it and you get to hear it. And I have found by doing research on our website that we've had people both in England, Switzerland, and Germany so far, foreign countries, that have gone to our website and listened to lessons. Furthermore, we set a record this week, this past Wednesday, of 205 views of our website in one day and 450 visits to our website just in this past week. So here's this invisible ambassador reaching out, taking our activities, our intentions, the desires of our congregation, and learning about them from afar. So that tells you, just in your own individual life, cherish your deeds and your words, because you don't know how far they will travel into the world and be a blessing, or when we're not careful, a curse to someone else, bringing discouragement rather than uplift. Today we look at religion and spirituality. Now you might think that I'm going to take you into a tremendously deep theological exposition upon religion and spirituality. I'm not. I'm only going to touch on it as a simple polarity of ideas and let you, as you choose to work with it individually in the coming days. Many of us have heard the cliche that's quite popular these days, "Oh, I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual. I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual." Well, that might mean many different things. People may have had different experiences with their own religious tradition. I'm not going to particularly talk about that today. I'm going to talk about religion and spirituality as two poles of one idea, our being in the world. Religion. If we look in the dictionary, that's a good place to start for that word. It means binding together. It can mean remembering, not just in terms of memory, but remembering, like putting different members of our being back together, making ourselves whole, as we would say in unity. It also means any organized religion with a system of rites and ceremonies that, using the old word, is called a cultus. According to Webster's dictionary, any religious organization is a cult. Ooh. A lot of people like to, in an unkind way, refer to unity as a cult. But if you go to the dictionary, you will find Webster defines any religion in the world, a community around a shared idea, is a cult. And their cultus is their teaching and their practice and their ceremonies, what they do, their shared experience. So we can get over cult as a bad word. It simply means a community around an organizing idea. So religion, let's just say community or shared experience. Spirituality, on the other hand, can be defined as an inner sense or understanding of the truth of existence, of the meaning of life. Larry often likes to get on the phone and talk about the meaning of life or solve the problems of the world, as he says, over the phone. So that's the idea, getting into the meat of the matter. And you will notice that unity by tradition, we can hear it in our daily word, approaching its... No, we're already past our 90th birthday of Daily Word magazine. 125 years for Silent Unity as a prayer ministry. But you will often notice in the languaging, the way the words are used, the affirmations. I am a child of God. I express divine love. I. You'll notice the central teaching. Now, it's not because unity grew out of the so-called me generation of the 1960s. Me. No. It's unity was always endeavoring to help the individual educate or understand the powers of their being, their God-created powers. So we might say that spirituality is the individual practice of soul development or growth. Okay, I said religion and spirituality, presenting them as two poles. I don't like the word opposites, but two poles of our existence, our meaning of life. One is a shared experience, a community that decides to come together as unity did more than a century ago around an idea. People were excited by it. They were inspired by it. They wanted to work together to promote the idea, to energize it. Well, we might say there are many ideas in unity, but I think it's always good to just start at the beginning. And so today I'll just present the two that Charles and Myrtle Fillmore worked with. Myrtle began the whole process that became our unity family through her own healing experience. And you know, she came away from hearing a speaker from Chicago talking on a subject of spirituality, you might say, and she walked away with that understanding. I am a child of God, therefore I do not inherit sickness. In other words, like the opening statement of our service, she realized the one lasting eternal truth of her being was that she was God's beautiful creation. Her difficulties, in her case her tuberculosis, was something she was passing through. It was not the eternal truth. Years later, she would tell those who would write to her, Mrs. Fillmore, I've done everything Unity's told me to do and I still have the flu. What's wrong? She says, Unity does not tell you to ignore or deny the flu. We tell you to deny that the flu is the eternal truth of who and what you are. It's simply a circumstance you're moving through. It was her spiritual awakening that inspired our movement. Charles Fillmore had his own. He was inspired by Myrtle's healing. Look what's happening. He decided to devote himself to daily time in the silence, to develop a spiritual practice in his own way, of listening, as it were, to life. His fundamental statement, his eye-opener, if you will, he expressed, if this God is spirit, and I am spirit, then somehow we can communicate. We can connect. Otherwise, this whole religion thing is a fraud. So he put two and two together, so to speak. God is spirit. I am an expression, a creation, as he understood it, of God. Therefore, we share something. We should be able to connect, to co-create, to work together, to be a team. His opening. So here we stand as individuals between this idea of religion, something that humanity has developed over great periods of time, of history. And then we have the more intimate experience, our own quest, our own spirituality, that which we are seeking for ourselves. And we do that in many different ways, don't we? Some of us participate in a unity church. Some of us are in other religious organizations. Some of it go it on our own, as it were, through our own personal study and learning about the meaning of life, discovering through nature and many activities what it's all about. Alfie, what's it all about? That wonderful question Alfie asked in the 60s. What's it all about? Is it just about getting all we can, taking from others? Or is there something more important? A golden rule, which, as Alfie said, is something even non-believers can believe in. Get it? Even those who are not religious but spiritual can believe in the premise, the power behind the golden rule, a statement such as, do unto others as you would have done unto yourself. So here we are living between these two ideas. Our individual spiritual unfoldment, development, education, growth, and our shared experience as a community. Those who are willing to come together to work together, that the community may be a powerful presence in the world. Now there's a little experiment we can do both individually and as a group, and that is to find our balance between these ideas. I'll give you a hint because I've been a minister longer than you have. Be aware through your feeling. When you individually are feeling burned out, discouraged in any way, then it's perhaps a good time to focus a little more on your individual spiritual practice, your prayer time, your own individual work. If, on the other hand, you have feelings of depression, discouragement, aloneness, your life doesn't matter, that can be a time to find healing through shared experience, through being part of a family, a community. So we have this opportunity in unity to both do our individual work and to do our shared work or task. I'll conclude with a statement or a phrase from Dr. Rudolf Steiner that I think speaks to this beautifully and speaks to the truth of our history as a unity movement. He said, a true understanding of the social dynamic, that sounds impressive, a true understanding of the social dynamic respects the freedom of the individual, and the individuals respect the needs of the community. Do you hear how that weaves together? The community respects, leaves the individual free in their own personal study and growth, but all of the individuals respect, honor, support the needs of the community. So there's this beautiful balance. Jesus referred to it generally as the middle road or the narrow road that leads to the kingdom is one not of extremes, but of balance. And so I invite you at this time to join me in a meditation that we turn to our breath as our lesson of balance. So I invite you to become comfortable, to turn your attention within. Close your eyes if you choose, and just allow yourself to become aware of that sensation of breathing out and breathing in. Here, our physical bodies, our physical presence in this world, teaches us about balance, about rhythm, about what sustains life and well-being through the breath. If you want to experiment, breathe in and hold it, and hold it, and hold it, and hold it. And soon you will find that you are being tilted off balance. That balance is found in the rhythm. All things in their time. Charles Fillmore expressed it in another way. That our life is pivotal. We look out into the world. We do our actions in the world. And then we breathe in, as it were. We turn within and we find our inner power, the divine gifts we have been created with by God. So to just meditate upon the beautiful rhythm of the breath. As you sense that rhythm, you may choose to hold these ideas of community and individual practice. Breathing out into shared experience. Breathing in to spiritual empowerment. Breathing out into a common good. Breathing in to a divine center. So I invite you for just a moment to rest in this rhythm. To live between this extreme of I am and then the world, the other. And find your balance, as it were. Now that you have this conscious, or let's say greater awareness of your balance as a spiritual and human being, you can take this into your outer life and activities. You can be aware of other individuals, and rather than struggling with how they behave or what they say or the opinions they hold, you can know in your mind and heart that they are simply trying to find balance in their own life between this and that, between within and without. And I invite you now to gently allow your awareness to come back to this outer sanctuary. And as you're ready to close your eyes, to open your eyes, And I'll leave you with this one assignment for your coming week. In the ancient world, long, long ago, there was the practice of yoga that developed, a practice of physical breathing, and of course also body postures. But really it was all, the postures were based upon the breathing, this cycle, this balance. In the 20th century, Dr. Steiner gave another direction. You can focus on the physical breath, but he also said in meditation, focus upon breathing light. Breathing light. I thought we breathed air. Breathing light. What he meant was the light of consciousness, of focus. So it's just what you've done in this meditation, to breathe with the mind, with ideas, finding your balance between within and without. Your individual spiritual understanding and this outer world, what you desire to be. We know the cliche that's popular these days, be the change you wish to see in the world. So that's a way of holding these two ideas together. You see something in the world that you think needs improvement, then you be that improvement. I've said this to you before, but if you wake up and say, I need a friend in my life, well, go out there and be a friend to someone. Remember our affirmation. I go within to know God. I reach out to know others. Let that be our lesson, our opportunity, our responsibility this very week.